So the comment on the screen, Jason, by Ryan is leading into something that we were going to discuss, and that's Caleb Williams. So my thought was pretty standard. I think that once he uh, announced that he was going into the transfer portal from Oklahoma, that USC would be the place. And since Keaton Slovis, their starting quarterback, had hit the transfer portal and left and has since signed with Pitt, that would be fairly automatic. Caleb Williams to USC and to reunite with the guy that recruited and signed him and also is considered to be an offensive genius.
It's bizarre, Mark. I don't even more so than Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. I don't know that I've ever seen a fan base so enamored with one individual. It's kind of bizarre, and I get it, but it's just I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and group chats on Twitter, and it's almost all discussion about Caleb Williams. So here's where I kind of understand, and I'm with you specifically when Slovis went to Pitt, and then with Jackson Dart, leaving. It almost made sense that it was inevitable that Caleb Williams was going to sign with well, not sign, but you know what I mean. Go move over to USC. So he was in town last weekend for a visit. Met with the coaches. I don't know what in depth that really has to do because it's the same coaches that he was with from by and large last year or this past year at Oklahoma. But from what I've heard, he came away fairly unimpressed just with USC in general, the facilities, and compared to where Oklahoma is at. Now, having said that, if Caleb Williams decides not to go to USC, that puts Lincoln Riley and USC in an awful situation on the quarterback side of things. So I know that he also visited UCLA. I've heard some noise that potentially Georgia is a little bit back in the mix. I think initially I'd heard that they gave him somewhere of a $2 million NIL evaluation that the family said that wasn't good enough, wasn't what they were looking for specifically. So it's going to be interesting. I've heard North Carolina's in the mix, but the fact that he took a visit to USC and has not committed yet is interesting. I still put it at a very, very small chance that he comes back to Oklahoma. I think I would 5% or less at this point. The fact that Oklahoma has had two in Chuba Purdy and Jackson Dart on campus, and additionally the fact that they're going that they've actually offered Arch Manning for the 2023 cycle. I think Oklahoma believes that there's a very small chance that he comes back to Oklahoma as well. At the end of the day, I still think that he probably lands at USC. That's probably the best position for him outside of coming back to Oklahoma, just because of to your point, the familiarity with Riley, his system, being there with a guy that recruited him and brought him on campus. But the fact that he came away unimpressed it certainly isn't a great sign for not for Caleb Williams going there, but just for the overall where USC is in the national landscape of things.
USC had one of the quietest seasons of a national power I can ever remember. Like nobody even knew that they were playing, it seemed, most of the time. They had a very uneventful 4-8 season. They were awful. And because of the Pac-12 being in the state that it is, nobody really paid attention to what was going on there. And before I rile anyone up, we'll make a set change here because I don't know that anybody noticed, but
I didn't even notice.
I often am scolded for this, but especially in this case, I would think that would definitely be a no-no. So we got the Sooners front and center instead of somebody else there. All right. There was a comment earlier in the chat concerning the move to the SEC. And now that we've seen, I don't know that the two are connected in any such way, but there was at the time some talk since the playoff proposal was first made public just a few weeks prior to the announcement of the Oklahoma Texas expansion that had something to do with not necessarily the decision to expand, but that would play into maybe the move to some extent. And now we are being put on hold concerning the playoff expansion and what that's going to look like. And there's a dissension and non-agreement there. Have you heard anything recently? You know, there was so much talk initially about when is this going to take place? And now we're not hearing that much, at least I'm not.
Yeah, everything, Mark, that I'm hearing kind of points to 2023. Uh, I think the idea with the the teams that the Big 12 was able to bring in for the future. I don't think Oklahoma and Texas. I don't think they want to be part of that. I don't think the Big 12 necessarily wants them to be part of that. I think it was from everything I've heard. I think it's maybe a little bit too soon to get everything together for them to move this year for the 2022 season. But everything that I've heard seems to be focused more on that 2023 season for Oklahoma and Texas to start competition in the SEC. I mean, it could go longer than that, absolutely. There's still some buyout considerations that will have to be made, but I think I would, from like I said, from what I've been hearing and just the the landscape of the Big 12 and the SEC in the country, I think it makes sense for that 2023 cycle to happen.